Well, I love watching the kids this time of year. Because Christmas is such a season of hope for children, isn't it?
Yes.
I remember when I was young, I loved Christmas because I always wanted the best present, right? I'll be honest. I was a big toy connoisseur at a young age, and I had parents that spoiled me quite often. But I remember around Christmas, we had our traditions. And one of our traditions was that on Christmas Eve, we would go to church. And the thing I love about going to church is Santa Claus would come to our house while we were at church. Wow. So we would come home on Christmas Eve, and the presents would already be there, and we would rip them all open, and then I'd get to go to my grandmother's house. And at Grandma's house, because since Santa had just dropped off all the toys at my house, he was still in town. And so we'd always keep an eye out for him. And all of a sudden we'd be at the front window of Grandma's house. And we'd see him walking across the street. See, there was a line of houses across the street, but behind that was a park. And Santa would always park his sleigh in the park. That way he didn't, cause a bunch of ruckus. And so I think he would stop at the house across the street first, because sometimes we saw him coming out that door. So we said, well, he goes there first, and then he always comes to us. And so we'd run downstairs as kids, and we'd be like, he's here! Oh. We'd get to sit on his lap, and he'd give us a present, and we'd break it 20 minutes later after he left. But see, that's what I love about the season is when we're kids, we have such big dreams for us. We dream about what gift we'll get. We dream about what we want to do when we grow up. We dream about all this wonderful stuff. But then sometimes as we get older, our dreams seem to be dashed. We stop dreaming such big dreams, and we start hitting that reality wall, right? See, that's what we're going to be talking about for this next series through the Christmas season. Is king-sized dreams. I want God to renew the dreams in all of us, no matter how old you are. I want us to feel like a child this Christmas, and I want us to have hope in the Lord. For what He made us to be, the purpose He gave us. We're going to start this series in Genesis 15. If you have your Bibles, feel free to open to Genesis 15. I'm going to give you a little background on it. There's a man named Abram. And this is a long, long, long time ago. And God spoke to Abram and He said, I have a promise for you. I have a dream for your life. I want you to follow me, and I'm going to take you to a land. And it's going to be wonderful. I'm going to bless you, and great things are going to happen. And so Abram obeys God, and he leaves his family, and he sets off. And what I think is really interesting is when he gets to the promised land, the first thing that happens is there's a famine. God ever give you a dream? And when you go to achieve it, the first thing you find is failure? I mean, Abram gets to this land, there's a famine that's so severe, he's got to go live in Egypt. I mean, God, what are you doing? You just promised him this land. You said, come on, I'm going to give it to you. And then when he gets there, it's like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. But during this time in Egypt, Abram is blessed, and he starts to become a rich man and get all this livestock, and he's very wealthy for the time. He's so wealthy that as he moves on with Lot, they're both so blessed and so wealthy, they have to split up because they don't have enough room. So God says, here, what land do you want? And Lot he says he wants to go towards Sodom and Gomorrah, so God lets him go, and then he takes Abram, and he says, all this is yours. This is what I promised. This is the dream. And so he's blessed. And then we pick it up in Genesis 15, and we're going to start at verse 1 today. It says, sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision. He said, do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great. See, he's already been blessed, but he's starting to face some opposition. God has given him this dream, and he has followed God, and he is at this wonderful land that God has promised. And then God says, I got a bigger dream. Remember when you would go to a fast food restaurant and you would order a meal and they'd say, would you like to supersize it? Would you like to king size it? Well, that's what God says to Abram. He says, I have blessed you, but would you like that blessing supersized? Would you like it bigger? He says, I got a great reward for you. Abram, we're not done yet. See, sometimes we have dreams that are kind of counterfeit dreams. We're only concerned with ourselves. And if your dream is to be like Abraham and have a big house and lots of land and millions of dollars, well then good luck with that. But if your dream is God's dream, oh boy, you better watch out. Because he's going to bless you bigger than you can imagine. So how do we tell the difference between our dream and God's dream? Because discernment is one of those gifts from God that we need. Well, it's like counterfeit money. When I was working in retail and they said, well, if you want to know what a counterfeit $100 bill looks like, don't look at a counterfeit $100 bill. What you need to do is you need to look at a real $100 bill. You need to look at the real, not the counterfeit. Because if you know the real one inside and out, you'll be able to spot a fake from a mile away. And so I want to look at what would God's dream consist of. Because if we know what God's dream consists of, then we'll be able to know that it's not a counterfeit, that it's truly what God has put in our heart, what God has for us. The first thing that I love about God's dreams is they always use our gifts. Okay? If you have a dream and it uses your gifts, there's a good chance that's a dream from God. See, in Romans 12, verse 6, Paul writes, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophecy, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is encouraging, then give encouragement. If it is giving, give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Oh, I love those gifts that Paul talks about. Because if we have a dream in ourselves, and each one has our own individual dream, it's something that God put there, a purpose for our lives. It'll involve our gifts. And if you notice, all of these gifts benefit others. God's dream will always benefit others. If you want to be rich and wealthy and benefit yourself, it's probably not God's dream. Because God wants you to use what he gives you for his kingdom. So prophecy is used for prophesying. Teaching is used to teach others. Encouragement is used for encouraging others. Our gift is always meant for other people. You ever notice that? It's really hard to use your gift for yourself. God never gave the prophet Jeremiah a prophecy about himself. He says, no, let me tell you what I want you to talk to Israel. Let me tell you about what I'm doing. But see, that's the thing, is if God gives you a dream and it benefits others, it's going to be scary. God's dreams are always scarier than your own. So if you're scared and there's fear, there's a good chance that's God's dream. When I was about 19, I made a bucket list of all the things I wanted to accomplish in my life. And some of it had, like places I wanted to visit, things I wanted to see. I wanted to read like 200 books. I wanted to do all these stuff. But there was one, after I kind of made the list, I started to think bigger. And I started to write down some things that I thought were impossible, that they would never, ever happen. They were not possible. And it was always funny because then I would read through my list and I would see those and it would kind of make me chuckle. Like, sometimes I wanted to cross it out because I knew it was unachievable. For me, the most unachievable dream on my list was of graduating from college. I had enrolled in college and I had failed out after, I didn't even make it to the end of the semester. Just dropped it and said, this isn't for me, But for some reason, as I made this list, it was always on there, and I thought, well, this is not quite right. About 10 years later, I enrolled in school, and I was thinking the same thing. I said, I don't think I can do this. But I had watched Marcy get her master's degree, and I had watched her diligently study and do the work, and it encouraged me to try. So I made it through my freshman year, and I thought, I might be able to do this. This might be achievable. Well, going into my sophomore year, my wife wanted me to get a work study. I was in school, I needed to at least make some money. And one of the guys at the school said, well, you can mow lawns with me at school. And I said, oh, that's great. But then they were having this job fair. And I promised Marcy I would go, even though I thought, well, I already have a job promised to me. I don't think I need to go. So I went golfing that morning. And went right from the golf course to the job fair. Showed up like 25 minutes late. And was standing around and really I didn't care. So there were some jobs that there was lines for and people were really busy, and I was like, well, I don't really want those. And I saw a friend of mine, she was my teacher the year before, and we had gone to church with her and her husband. I know them for several years, and so I thought, well, I'm bored. I promised my wife I'd be here. I'm just going to go sit and talk to her for a while, because nobody's at our table. It was... So I sat down with her, and we just, how's the family? How's the kids? How are you doing? And all of a sudden, she starts talking to me about this job, and I was like, I don't even know what it's for. Like, I didn't come here to get a job. And she's like, Andrew, I think you'd be great for this job. I was like, well, that's weird. And it was like a job interview, but really, she knew me, and so she was trying to sell me on the job the whole time. And that job was to be the tutor for the entire school. And I thought, just a year ago, I didn't think I was smart enough to go to college. Now, a year later, I'm tutoring juniors and seniors who are in classes way more advanced than me. After that year, I spent a year of tutoring. She became a kindergarten teacher, and so her job became open, and they said, we want you to run the tutoring program. In 2 years, I went from my dream of I'll never be able to go to college to now I'm teaching at a college. And I'm working with others, and I'm helping others fulfill their dreams. Oh, it was scary. But see, God had bigger dreams than I had ever imagined that I'd be capable of. And the reason I tell you this today is because God's dreams always glorify God. He can always use us to help others and glorify Him. I was the last person to believe in myself. But that's what the enemy does, doesn't he? He tells us you're not good enough. He tells us you can't do it. And we hear that so much, these dreams that used to be such a strong part of us seem to fade away. See, Abram had a dream. His dream was that he wanted a son. In verse 2, Abram replied, he said, "O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eleazar of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth. You've given me no descendants of my own, so my servants will be my heir." Abram just wants a son. I mean, he is so richly blessed. He's got all the livestock. He's one of the richest men probably on the face of the earth at the time. But what good is it if we can't pass it on, right? All the things that God teaches us, all the things that are our faith in God and our growth, if we can't pass it on, it's all nothing, right? And so that's Abraham's quandary here. He says, I have a beautiful wife, I have all the livestock in the world, I have everything I need, but I have nobody to share it with. I mean, God gave him the land as far as he could see, but without someone to share it with, it's nothing. The next generation is so important. Our kids, our grandkids. It's really essential for us to pass on what we have, to pass on what we learned and what we know. I know for me, my grandmother's faith was passed on to me. And that's why I'm here today as your pastor. Because even before I believed in myself, she believed. And she believed in God being able to take whatever little dreams I had and to supersize them. Make them king size. I like how Abram knows whose fault it is. Right? When our dreams don't come to fruition, we know whose fault it is, right? Since you have given me no children. He tells God, you have given me no children. I mean, he's in his 80s now. He's been trying for many, many years to have a child. He's given up hope. And he knows it's God's fault. He has been praying this prayer over and over again for generations and generations. That I would just have one child to pass everything on to. For years and years. And he kept hearing God say no. But see, sometimes when God says no, what he's really saying is not yet. We just don't have the patience to stick with it. For all these years, Abram and his wife Sarai, they wanted to have a child, and God kept saying, not yet. And so it's God's fault. He wouldn't give him the child. us have some dreams inside us that we had prayed for. Or God had said, not yet, but maybe we heard no. Lord, if there is a dream in our heart that you have hope in, that you have blessing in, I pray that would be rekindled today, that you would light that fire again. Give us the hope in you, that you can achieve the impossible for us. Not yet, but someday. See, that's the thing, is Abram wanted a child. And God had his own dream for Abram. Then the Lord said to him, no, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have. Boy, that's a lot of descendants. Wow. Abram had a small dream for one son. And God says, I got a big dream. A much bigger dream for you. I mean, God wanted to fulfill Abram's dream. It had always been on God's heart. Sarai was barren. She couldn't have a child. But that didn't give up hope in God's eyes. He just knew they weren't ready yet. And that's the amazing thing, is because God has a plan for Abram. He's always had a plan. It's been put in since the beginning. I have a plan. You know what his plan was? That Abram would have a son. And his son would have a son. And his son would have a son. And one day, from the descendants of Abram, in a manger in Bethlehem, a child would be born to save the whole world. That would allow every person to be forgiven. That would their relationship would be restored with God. That's a supersized dream right there. God had a plan. He knew what he was doing with Abram, and he knows what he is doing in your life. Even if it's a not yet. God knows what he is doing with your dreams. Your dreams for your son, your dream for your daughter, your dreams for your grandkids, your great-grandkids. God has a dream. He has a plan. So if your gift is prophesying, then prophesy. If your gift is serving, then serve. If your gift is teaching, then teach. Encourage, give them encouragement. You play a part in so many plans for so many people, for so many generations. Don't let the enemy take that away from you. That is your dream. That is your purpose that God has for you. God wants to king-size Abram's dream. Oh, and it's scary. Isn't it? It is scary to have such a large dream. So Abram looks up into the sky and he starts to count the stars. The same stars that one day some kings, some magi, would see a new star. A new descendant of Abraham. And they would follow that for thousands of miles to this little manger and this little baby wrapped in swaddling gifts, knowing this is the Savior of the world. And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. And as far as we know, Abram was the only person at this time that God was talking to. The only person that God had chosen at this time. The only person that God was active. He counted Abram as righteous, and he counted Abram as a man of faith. And he wanted to fulfill Abram's dream. And Abram believed. See, when we believe in our dream, when we believe what God has for us, we start to walk that walk. We start to talk that talk. As a kid who wants to become a football star, they go out and they practice and they run around and they play with their friends and they know what their dream is, and so they start to act like that. Whether your dream is starting a school or helping foster kids or whatever it may be, whatever God has ignited in your heart, when we believe in God and believe in our dream, we start to walk towards it. We might be still hearing not yet, but that doesn't mean what we're doing at that point isn't leading us there. Now, Abram's dream had gone from what he thought was a no, but was really a not yet, to now it's a yes. But it was still a not yet. But Abram heard that it will happen. And so he tried and tried again with his wife. But she didn't get pregnant. She was in her 80s. And so they realized that maybe it was too impossible for God. And so Sarai took her servant Hagar and said, Abram, have a baby with her. That way you have your child. Abram took God's king-sized dream and thought it was all in his hands, that he was the one to fulfill it. And so he had a child. And it caused strife between their family. And eventually, Hagar and his son Ishmael were sent to the desert to die. But God blessed Hagar. And through Ishmael, his descendants would become the Muslim nation that we know. Ishmael's descendants have become as numerous as the stars. All because Abram didn't believe God was capable. But I love that that's not how the story ends. Because despite Abram's disobedience, despite him walking away from his dream and trying to take it into his own hands and trying to accomplish it by himself, God still remained faithful to Abram. He fulfilled his promise, and Sarah became pregnant. And their son Isaac was born. And Isaac had 2 children. One of them, Jacob. And Jacob had a child named Judah. And it was through the line of Judah that we found this baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. That is the mercy and forgiveness of God. That no matter how far we've strayed, no matter how many times we've given up on our dream, God seeks us out. He leaves the 99 and he seeks the one. And when he reignites that dream for you, he celebrates. Not only does he celebrate, but the angels in heaven celebrate. The night Jesus was born, the angels came down to the shepherds and said, "Glory to God in the highest. The Messiah is born. Emmanuel, God with us, he is born. Come and see." And the angels are singing and they're praising. It's the same way with us. The heavens sing over you and the dream that God has in your heart. Every time you go back to him and you seek him out, he says, "God, I love you." And the angels sing for us. It's the little old us. And these little dreams that we don't think matter to anyone, they matter to God.
Amen.
Let us pray.